Welcome to What to Watch Wednesdays, hosted by someone's favorite film buff, Nathaniel. I particularly love movies, and I want to share that with you. From the horrifying to the terrifying, the spine-chilling to the hair-raising, along with the straight-up disgusting, WWW is your place for all things movies. Stick around, and we'll leave you with a movie that will make your blood run cold. 88.1 The Burg, your mortifying music central. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays, everybody. My name is Nathaniel, and I'm going to stop doing that creepy voice here. Hello, welcome to What to Watch Wednesdays. My name is Nathan. I am the host of the show, and I hope you guys really appreciated the spooky sort of Halloween-themed intro I got going. That intro will be playing for the next couple of weeks for the entire month of October, so get used to it. I know I have, and I really like it, and I think it's really funny, and I'm definitely going to be using that voice a lot more often when we're talking about movies this month, because I'm going to be talking exclusively about horror movies to really get us in the spooky season. And so what better way to start off with probably one of the most iconic series of monster movies out there. That's right. Tonight we're talking about the Universal Monster series. These are the iconic ones, and we're starting off with the trio of terror itself, that being Dracula from 1931, Frankenstein from 1931, and ending out with The Mummy from 1932. That is our watch list tonight, and before we jump into it, we're going to listen to some music, but stick around, and we'll leave your blood running cold. 88.1 The Burg, your music central. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for our first movie on the watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at Dracula from 1931, available to watch now on Amazon Prime. After brainwashing a real estate agent, the mysterious Count Dracula boards a boat for England, including to wreak havoc doesn't really make any sense, whereas intending to wreak havoc makes a lot more sense. So, Dracula intends to wreak havoc, and havoc he does in fact wreak. For those of you who have never heard of this movie, what? Everybody's heard of Dracula. Everybody, and he's one of the most iconic things out there. And arguably, it was kind of started with this movie from 1931. One of the first movies. It wasn't the first, but it was one of the first in the Universal Monster series, kind of a colloquial sort of cinematic universe or sort of like series of movies that aren't necessarily directly connected by plot all the time, but are very much all made by Universal Studios, the film company located in Los Angeles. And honestly, with it being probably the most iconic one in the kind of first couple, more so like in comparison to the other two. I know that they made like a Jekyll and Hyde movie and a Phantom of the Opera movie before this one, but this one was kind of the one that kickstarted the series. And for it being that, I gotta tell you guys, newsflash, this movie is iconic. Really. I've been babbling on about how it's iconic for the last 3 minutes, and you haven't even, it's only been 1 minute. Wow. I can't keep track of time, and I can't keep track of how many times I say one thing, but let's start talking about new stuff. For those of you who have never seen the original Dracula from 1931, let me tell you right now, part of its charm is Dracula itself. One thing that really stood out to me is the actor known as Bela Lugosi is just such a wondrous actor. He brings this sort of magic to the role that you really need for a incredibly magical being that can turn into a bat and like hypnotize people and like has super strength and transforms into dogs and can suck people's blood. Like, honestly, if you're gonna have a magical actor play a magical character, nobody is going to complain. They're going to be like, this works. And it does work. Bela Lugosi is one of the reasons this movie is good. There's also the fact that the set design is also awesome. There's also the fact that the cinematography is awesome, and the actor who plays Renfield is awesome, and a lot of it is really cool, and a lot of it's revolutionary, and it was made in the 1930s. How does it sound this good? And
Bela Lugosi is not the only thing that's good about this movie, but I wanted to highlight that first above everything else, because you watch Dracula because it has Dracula in it. You don't watch it because it has Tim from accounting in it. No, you watch it because it has Dracula in it. And you want to see his crazy castle. You want to take in the atmosphere of just this creepy, overwhelming feeling that something is very, very wrong. And that's the biggest strength of the original Dracula, with it being in black and white, with its set design and its cinematography contrasting each other almost perfectly for the first act alone. It is marvelous at establishing the exact atmosphere that you look for when you watch a movie about Dracula. You don't necessarily watch it to like have it be some big reveal that Dracula is a vampire, because everybody knows it at this point. You watch it because you've heard it's creepy, or you've heard it's got that charm to it, that texture, that feeling to it. And for the first act specifically, it really has it. One thing that actually stood out to me is that, as I mentioned, Dracula is basically hypnotizes or brainwashes. It doesn't really hypnotize him. He just kind of brainwashes him to do his bidding. But he brainwashes this real estate agent by the name of Renfield, kind of at the end of the first act. Not really spoilers, don't worry. And Renfield then becomes his servant for the rest of the movie. I loved Renfield so much. I loved his actor's performance because he was so incredibly crazy. I don't know why more people, like why he's avoided when it comes to talking about crazy performances, because the way he just stares at the camera and just the way he laughs and the way he looks and how it just such a simple visual transformation from his hair being well done and slicked back to just kind of hanging loose with bangs right in front of him. I don't know why more people don't talk about the original Renfield. I wish people did. The thing that happens now with Renfield is that you find the like Nicolas Cage movie that was released last year, and I haven't even seen it. I don't have hate against it, but like, can we please acknowledge that Renfield was also such an amazing part of the original Dracula? Can we please acknowledge that? And honestly, I think that can kind of sum it up, really. Most people remember it for the atmosphere, for the cinematography, for the set design, and for Dracula himself. With there being just one element that isn't talked about often enough, it feels like I'm talking like a crazy person when I say that, because again, this movie's been around for so long. It's only 7 more years, and it will have been around for 100 years. Think about that. And I personally believe that there's an underrated aspect to it. I might be crazy, but if I'm crazy, can I be Renfield, please? Can I please play Renfield in a future adaptation of Dracula? Can I please be Renfield? I want to be crazy. I want to be crazy. We're going to take a quick break for some more music, and when we come back, we will talk about Frankenstein from 1931, so stick around for that.
88.1 The Burg, your music central. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays.
And for our second movie on the watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at Frankenstein from 1931, available to watch now on Peacock. So, after the success of Dracula, they decided to follow it up with Frankenstein, adapting another very popular novel. And the basic plotline goes like this. Henry Frankenstein, an obsessive scientist, brings his creation to life. A humanoid creature made from the body parts of cadavers who is dubbed Frankenstein's monster, because everybody who's annoying who has existed on this planet Earth has always pointed out, actually, it's Frankenstein's monster. The monster isn't called Frankenstein. We know. You've told us that 15 times over the last month. Shut up. I have heard that thing. It's like the most obvious like correction that anybody can ever make. Stop saying it. We know. We know. The only people who don't are children. Shut up. Different tangent aside. Since I've started this review off nitpicking, let me go into another nitpick. for about 3 seconds. Why is he called Henry Frankenstein? Wasn't he called Victor in the original novel? Victor Frankenstein is such a better name than Henry Frankenstein. And if anybody's fighting against me on that, then congratulations. I don't necessarily want to respect your opinion. Different topic. In the grand scheme of things, honestly, the original Frankenstein from 1931, it's not a perfectly accurate retelling of the book because they add in a completely new character by the name of Fritz, who later became Igor way later down the line in terms of the whole like evolution of the Frankenstein formula. And that was never in the original book. But like in the grand scheme of things, do I really care if the movie's entertaining? No. And is this movie entertaining? Yes. So do I care? No. Very good. We're doing the math here. We're figuring this out. I was blown away by the first 5 minutes of this movie to begin with. That's a really good compliment, honestly. Like, the first 5 minutes alone, I could tell very directly, exactly how I could with Dracula, that the director really worked himself to make it look good, or really pace it out. And that was also in part with the cinematographer and the lighting expert and the way it just looked and felt during those first 5 minutes. It's just about Henry Frankenstein and Fritz basically digging up a body and then like taking the body out and carrying it out. But the way it was paced was like, this is interesting to watch. I feel awful for saying that it's interesting to watch somebody desecrate a grave, but like, that's what happens when you have an extremely iconic movie. You kind of forget, you like the context of the scene itself kind of melts away and you're like, oh, they're desecrating a grave. But it looks really cool and it sounds great for 1931. Again, how magic? What is this? But the way it looks and the way it feels are what I'm here for. And I get that delivered in spades with the original Frankenstein. I was blown away by how much of a jump it felt compared to Dracula. It really just proved to me that like it's about the director. It's about what the people behind the movie want it to feel like. The original Frankenstein is mildly creepy, more so of a kind of, it's got that sort of, I feel like Germanic town is the best way I can put it. Kind of this more for overbearing atmosphere of like obsession. Obsession is the best way to describe what this movie feels like, especially with Henry Frankenstein himself. This overbearing sense of obsession with his creation. That's the thing I'm pretty sure they got perfectly from the book, honestly. Having read some parts of it, it's just like that right there, I think, is at the core of Frankenstein. And also part of it is at the core is the creation itself. And how do you make the creation itself good? Good question. Here's the answer. You get Boris Karloff to play the monster. Oh, doggy. Having Boris Karloff play the monster made this movie good. I said that Bela Lugosi was good as Dracula. The same things I said exactly about Bela Lugosi applied directly to Boris Karloff as Frankenstein. He made that role. He made it work. I loved the person who portrayed Henry Frankenstein, or Victor Frankenstein. I want to just call him Victor, but he's called Henry Frankenstein in the movie, so I'll back off. He was good, but Boris Karloff as the monster made me legitimately question whether or not the monster is the victim. You hear that sometimes brought up when talking about the original Frankenstein. You hear this idea that the monster, or the creature as it's called in the book, is this like tortured soul. Basically, it's not his fault that he's alive. It's kind of just like a punishment for Victor in the original story for just thinking that he can play God. And that's also kind of portrayed in this movie to a certain extent with Henry Frankenstein. It's enough to the point where it's like, it's not the main focus, but my only really qualm with that theory of him being the victim was, well, he's got an abnormal brain. That means he's got the brain of a criminal. But at the same time, it's like, what? But he didn't ask for that. He didn't ask to be brought to life. The fact that I'm even questioning any of this is kind of a testament to how timeless this movie is. If this movie didn't have Boris Karloff in it, I'd go, haha, monster got hit by lightning. Instead, I'm actually legitimately wondering, is this creature, this monster, this being that was brought into existence against his own will, is it the victim? That's not something I'm willing to dive into quite yet. But one thing I am willing to dive into is just getting Boris Karloff on board doesn't automatically make your movie good, which is something that I wish The Mummy from 1932 learned. But as we will soon see, no, they didn't. So stick around after the break where we'll jump into The Mummy from 1932.
88.1 The Burg, your music central. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays.
And for our third and final movie on the watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at The Mummy from 1932, available to watch now on Amazon Prime. Man, my voice kind of hurts from doing that creepy voice all the time. But I think it sounds good, and it sounds also entertaining. I'm sure it's entertaining to listen to, so I'll keep doing it. So the basic plot of The Mummy, British archaeologists digging in Egypt specifically uncover and reawaken the long dead Prince Imhotep, who goes out into the world to find his lost lover after being dead for a long time because he's a mummy from ancient Egypt. You know, it's kind of in the name, ancient Egypt. It's not like it was in the last 5 years. It's not like it happened yesterday. It's been a long time. Long time. Man, this movie felt like it went on for a long time. It only lasted an hour and 15 minutes, and it felt like it went on for such a long time. Watching The Mummy from 1932 after Frankenstein was kind of like watching Frankenstein after the original Dracula. I watched these back to back. When watching Frankenstein, I was struck by how good it was, even in comparison to the original Dracula. Watching The Mummy 1932 in comparison to Frankenstein, I was struck by how disappointed I was and how not fun I was having. Not fun I was having, yes. How much not fun it really was. Honestly, I can't really recommend the original Mummy all that much. And when I say original, I don't mean the 1990s one with Brendan Fraser. I haven't seen those ones quite yet, but I'm sure they're better than this. My biggest problem is it feels to me like they kind of thought, okay, Boris Karloff was in Frankenstein last year. Let's have him be in this movie. We're going to have him be the Prince Imhotep. We're going to have him be this reawakened mummy, and he can do a good job, and he'll be scary, and it'll be great. And they were like, okay, marketing department, or not marketing department, excuse me, makeup department. Hey guys, makeup. Can we make Boris Karloff look like a mummy? Yeah, sure. What do you want him to look like? Well, he's got to have bandages all over him. Okay, sure. He should have like kind of darker eyes. He should be kind of looks like his skin has been rotting and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, sure. He should have veiny hands because he's probably stiffened from rigor mortis. Okay, yeah, sure. This is a theoretical conversation happening between the producers and the makeup department. And then the producer goes, okay, we want his skin to be wrinkled. And the makeup team's like, okay, sure. So then they get to shooting, and Boris Karloff walks out of the makeup room, and he looks like a raisin. And nobody questioned whether that was a bad idea or not. But he looks like a raisin. He just looks like a raisin. I can't overemphasize this enough. Boris Karloff is a good actor. He's a great voice actor. He voiced the Grinch. He's great as Frankenstein's monster. He looks like a raisin. Prince Imhotep reminds me of a dried out grape. And it's so distracting. It's so incredibly distracting. It either looks like a raisin or it looks like he's been in the bathtub for too long and he just got bruni skin, except he was dunking his head underneath for like 30 minutes. Okay? That's what it looks like. And I'm supposed to be scared of this or creeped out or find this in any way charming. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. I hope you can tell from the way I've ranted about it. And it's just also kind of annoying that Boris Karloff, a British actor, was cast to play an Egyptian prince. I tend to leave that kind of thing out of the reviews because it's just like, it's the 1930s. If I didn't go into watching a movie from the 1930s with that knowledge in mind, I'd be extremely disappointed all the time. It's kind of just an unfortunate fact of the matter. But at the same time, like, were you really expecting me to suspend my disbelief that Boris Karloff is Egyptian? No, I wasn't going to believe that for 5 seconds. You really should have thought about this for a lot longer. If you did, maybe he wouldn't look like a raisin. Did you ever think about that? I'm getting so mad at this. Let's back up to one other thing that I think just, again, I should expect from a 1930s movie, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. In the other two movies, in Dracula and Frankenstein, there's kind of the token hot woman character that they throw on the poster, the character who's actually in the movie, but may not do a whole lot or speak up for herself and stuff like that. Again, not perfect, but that's how it was in the day. Cultural thing. That it is what it is. Can't change it now. We can only do better in the present. And I would not have as big of a problem with the Mummy doing it if the woman character wasn't just like shoehorned in for no reason. In Dracula, she's like the daughter of this doctor who's living next door to Dracula when he like comes to England to live in like a mansion. And in Frankenstein, it's Henry's wife. So it makes sense, kind of, like there's some connection. This one, it's just, here's a lady. Okay, cool. Well, how is she related? Well, she's related to this one archaeologist guy because they are friends, relatives. They know each other. What's the relationship here? You haven't established it. Oh, you're not going to establish it. That's cool. I didn't need that context anyways. I can live without it. I think one thing I mentioned about Frankenstein really applies here, which is that, and with Dracula, honestly, these movies aren't directly connected. They were just referred to as the Universal Monsters series because they were all made by Universal Pictures back in the 30s. They were kind of the start of the horror movie craze, and it makes sense why they'd be lumped together because they were coming out pretty like in quick enough succession. It proves to me that just because you're making something based off of something popular, or you're trying to make something popular, the director and the people working on the movie are what make it. It's not the studio. It's not exactly it being made by Universal that made Frankenstein good. It's not what made Dracula any good. Again, it was Bela Lugosi, it was Boris Karloff, it was the directors of those movies, it was the people who were in charge of writing and doing the cinematography and the costuming and the set design. It's what made those movies work. And the people with the sound equipment specifically as well. Those were the things that made those movies good. And when it's not in The Mummy, you can tell there's a difference. There's a difference in feeling. Just because they're all made by Universal doesn't mean they're all going to be good. It's just a fact of life. And speaking of a fact of life, we are nearing the end of today's episode of What to Watch Wednesdays, so I figured I'd close out with the movie that will make your blood run cold. Again, the spooky voice is coming back. movie I recommend watching over the weekend to kind of get yourself into the Halloween spirit. Honestly, it's kind of a split between Dracula and Frankenstein. If you're doing them in order like I am, I would recommend watching Dracula first. But if you're just kind of like, I only have time to watch one of them, then I would highly recommend watching Frankenstein over the other two, specifically The Mummy. I think that Frankenstein, out of the three, is the best made one. It's the one that will give you the most entertainment value and will also have that good balance of the strong visuals of Dracula and the atmosphere of it, along with a very good performance as the creature who's kind of in charge of the movie. With it being Boris Karloff, I think that one is honestly the strongest one. And with that being said, thank you all for listening to What to Watch Wednesdays. Follow What to Watch Wednesdays on Instagram at What to Watch Wednesdays. All one word, no caps, no spaces. We will be back here on 88.1 The Burg this Saturday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Same time, same place. Longer show, more movies. We'll be talking about some more Universal Monster movies. And with that, keep watching.